help elect Joe Biden to be the next president, Mayor Pete Buttigieg.
Well, Matt, thank you so much. First of all, thanks for your support for my campaign. And I know there are a lot of people on this call who are a huge part of our effort, and in particular, our Virginia effort. Every time I was in the Commonwealth, I felt such tremendous energy. One of the last events we did was, I think, our largest, the better part of 10,000 people there. If you were among the folks there, thank you. Thanks for helping us get on the ballot. I'm so proud of what Team Pete did in Virginia all the way through March 1st when I stepped out. I'm equally proud of what Matt and others are doing to make sure that we now have the full force of Team Pete on Team Joe. It has never been more important. And I hope that you will continue to follow the example that Matt and others are setting of taking that same passion and that same energy that you brought to my campaign and making it part of this bigger democratic effort. You know, when we were in the heat of campaigning 2 or 3 months ago, if you were to tell me, you know, the stakes of the election seem high now, but they're actually going to get radically higher, I would have looked at you funny. I would have thought, how could it possibly be more critically important than it already is to make sure that we have good leadership in the White House and to bring an end to the Trump presidency? And sure enough, it actually became even more important when this pandemic hit. And unfortunately, we are seeing on a daily basis example after example of why this matters. To those who maybe drew a little bit of consolation from the idea that, okay, the president is a terrible leader, but maybe it doesn't matter that much who's in that seat, we're seeing just how much it really does matter. I also want to make sure that those who supported my campaign know that I'm not just energetically supporting Joe Biden because of what we know we're up against, but also because it's a chance to be for something and for someone that I really believe in. You know, even when we were competing against each other, every time I spent time with Joe, he was unfailingly decent and kind, and he has a level of empathy that we're really going to need in the White House now more than ever, in addition to a readiness to lead with competence. And if you look, for example, at the recent announcement of the people that he has turned to build policy committees, including alumni of the Pete for America organization, you can tell that our country will be well served by top-notch public servants when Joe Biden is in office. So the empathy and the competence are more important than ever. If you were part of my campaign, you probably also heard me from time to time talking about politics as a kind of soul craft, that it's about even more than getting the policies right and getting the administration right. It's about the fact that leadership really matters more than anything in terms of what it brings out of us. That leadership matters because it can call us to our highest values. Or if we have bad leadership, that leaders can bring out what is worse than us. And that's another reason why so much is on the line here. If like me, you don't believe the world is divided up into people who are all good and people who are all bad, but that each of us are capable of good and bad things, and that leadership can draw the best out of us, that's what I believe that Joe Biden will do. He's going to need your help across Virginia and across the country. And so I want to thank you for being there for this fight, just as you were there for me. And there are some very concrete things that are going to be covered in this training conversation about what you can do in order to make that difference, to organize your communities, to check in on neighbors and friends and colleagues. First of all, just to make sure they're okay at a time like this, but also because strong, organized communities are healthier from a social and a political standpoint too. Here's the other thing I want to make sure we talk about just for a second tactically. There's some hand-wringing out there in the media about the fact that the vice president is not getting the same sort of attention that the president is, for the simple reason that when you make a complete fool of yourself and your country from a podium in the White House, you will get more attention than anybody doing the right thing, acting competently and decently as a presidential candidate. That's not the kind of attention we want, the kind of attention you get by floating the idea of injecting bleach into people to deal with the pandemic. That's okay. but we've got to do the organizing to make sure that the quality versus quantity of attention and engagement matters. And if you followed any of the coverage, the kind of inside baseball coverage, raising the question of what the Biden campaign can do to adapt to these challenging times, when politics as we know it has always been about physically gathering people and meeting them and bringing them together, like in that wonderful event in Northern Virginia where so many thousands of people came and I was able to speak to you. And we've got to pivot away from that. Everybody's saying, okay, well, what's politics going to look like right now? Can there be a successful campaign? The thing I want to make sure you understand is you are the answer to that question. This training is part of the answer to that question. The work that we do in order to make sure that being sometimes confined to quarters doesn't confine our political possibilities, making sure that we use digital tools, use them creatively, and use them in harmony with the game plan of the campaign. That's the answer to that question. It's up to us. The VP is doing everything that you could expect of our candidate from his home, speaking to the important issues, connecting with the various groups across our party and across our country, going out on media day after day. I'm doing everything I can, whether it's piping into a local TV station to spread the message, or helping gather resources, or being here with volunteers like you. It's ultimately going to come down to your ability to take the steps that are needed. And it's everything from hosting a virtual phone bank to a virtual community meeting, to downloading the Team Joe app to use it to text people you know, sharing the digital campaign content that's coming out, joining the virtual trainings, connecting directly with the campaign organizer to find out how you can do even more. All of these things are going to matter more than ever. And if we get it right, we are rewriting the playbook for American politics. Granted, we're doing it out of necessity. All the more reason for us to make sure we get it right. But the question of how our country emerges from this pandemic is nothing less than the question of how our country will establish the social and economic arrangements that are going to decide our future. Win the era was always the motto of our campaign in so many ways. This is going to decide the era to come, and that's why it's more important than ever that we come together. So I'm going to be with you, as millions of Americans are, together, making sure this gets done. Thank you again for everything that you're doing to make sure that we get better leadership for this country in the White House. And I'm looking forward, hopefully in person, but one way or the other, to having a lot to celebrate with you in November.